Welcome to Devotional Drops, where we explore the richness of Scripture and how it speaks to our lives today. In this episode, we're reflecting on the potter's wheel. You know what's fascinating about transformation? A master potter can take a completely ruined piece of clay and turn it into something more beautiful than originally planned. It's like nature's ultimate recycling program.
That's such an interesting way to think about it. How did you come to make that connection?
Well, I was watching this incredible potter at work, and what struck me wasn't just the beautiful pieces they created, but how they handled the failures. When something collapsed or cracked, they didn't even flinch. They just started reshaping it into something new.
The way you describe that process reminds me of how ancient civilizations viewed pottery as sacred. They believed it mirrored the human experience.
Exactly right. And here's what's really mind blowing. In traditional pottery making, the clay has to withstand temperatures over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Without that intense heat, it would never become strong enough to be useful.
So, the very thing that seems most destructive is actually essential to the transformation?
Precisely. And you know what's fascinating about the technical side? The clay has to be perfectly centered on the wheel. We're talking millimeter precision. Even a slight misalignment can cause the whole piece to collapse.
That makes me think about how we often resist pressure in our lives, even when it might be exactly what we need to grow stronger.
And here's another parallel. Master potters can actually feel imperfections in the clay as it spins. They know exactly where to apply pressure to work out those flaws. Sometimes they'll deliberately create tension in certain areas to achieve specific effects.
The way you're describing this reminds me of that Japanese art form, Kintsugi, where they repair broken pottery with gold.
Yes? And what's incredible about Kintsugi is that it completely reframes our view of brokenness. Instead of trying to hide the cracks, they highlight them with gold, making them part of the piece's story. Some of these pieces sell for thousands more than undamaged pottery.
That's fascinating. It's like they're celebrating the journey rather than just the destination.
Speaking of journeys, let me tell you about something called the potter's paradox. It's this idea that the most beautiful pieces often come from what seem like complete disasters. I've seen potters intentionally break pieces just to reconstruct them in more interesting ways.
That's such a powerful metaphor for life's challenges. How do you think this applies to personal transformation?
Well, research in psychology actually backs this up. Studies show that people who've faced and overcome significant challenges often develop greater resilience and emotional depth. It's like they've been through their own kiln process.
The way you put that makes me think about how both experiences require surrendering to the process.
Exactly. And here's what's really interesting. In traditional pottery communities, they have this saying that the clay teaches the potter as much as the potter shapes the clay. It's this beautiful cycle of mutual transformation.
That's really profound. It's like admitting we don't have all the answers actually makes us more shapeable.
And you know what? Modern neuroscience is showing something similar. Our brains are actually most plastic, most able to change and grow when we're in situations that challenge our existing patterns.
So, what would you say to someone who's feeling like that marred piece of clay right now?
I'd tell them that being married doesn't mean being discarded. In fact, studies show that 73% of successful entrepreneurs failed in their first venture. Every master potter knows that some of their most valuable pieces started as mistakes.
That really puts things in perspective.
Until next time on Devotional Drops, remember that every turn of the wheel is shaping something beautiful, even if we can't see the final form yet.